Hey guys, welcome back to Free Drop Live. Delighted today to be joined by one of the rising stars in the game, Kyle De Beer. Kyle, how are you doing, bro?
I'm very well, thanks, and you?
Thanks so much for making the time, dude.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
How have you been spending your lockdown? I mean, you must be chomping at the bit to get back out on the golf course again.
Yeah. Listen, it's definitely been a change. I think I've definitely started to adapt to it pretty well after a couple of months in. I think we've all had to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been spending my time mostly. I've set up a little net, I think, as most people have in their back garden. Just to some
Mm.
balls into, just to make sure that you remember what your golf clubs feel like in your hands. And then I was lucky enough just before lockdown, I got a couple of weights delivered to my house, so I can still keep up with my gym program.
Oh, it's like,
So yeah, that's been great. So yeah, it's just another way to pass a bit of time. Yeah, and then otherwise, I've been doing a little bit of teaching online just to get some cash in the pocket.
yeah, that's epic. How has the sort of advent of COVID affected your plans for the year and what you were hoping to achieve in the events you were hoping to play in?
Yeah, it's the timing wasn't great. Obviously, with the UK tour that would have been coming up, I think we would already be in the UK now, usually. And yeah, there were some great events, some great venues set up this year. So yeah, I was really looking forward to that experience. But obviously, I mean, you just have to accept that it's not going to happen. Or maybe towards the end of the year, they might put some events in there that we can maybe go to, which would be awesome.
Mm.
Yeah, but I mean, besides that, I mean, I've just accepted that it's going to be a weird year for everyone. You kind of just have to go with the flow and just make sure that you're ready when we do eventually get back to play.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who comes out firing when you guys do get back underway, because it's not necessarily going to be the guys that are in form heading into the break.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, I think the first event back will definitely be interesting. It'll be a good way to see who's been practicing
Yeah,
during the lockdown. Yeah, I hope that I can keep some of the form that I had before lockdown. But yeah, I guess you never know. We're just going to have to find out.
yeah, because you actually finished runner up, I think, in your last event to Casey Jarvis, who was 25 under or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, this is stroke player. Yeah, I was lucky enough to play that last round with him where he just put on a showcase. Yeah, I mean, it was a great experience, but obviously not nice being a bridesmaid a couple of times already this year.
No, but as we'll get into, you've also had your fair share of victories over the years, which is cool. But I mean, what is it like, playing against someone who's just that sort of dialed in? Like, is it how do you approach it? How much are you watching what he's doing, and how much are you just trying to focus on your own game?
Yeah, so my whole mentality is just to make sure that I focus on what I can do with my round, with my game. I don't like to focus on other people.
Yeah.
I like to be to keep the vibe upbeat in a group. I mean, I hope anyone who's played with me can vouch for that. I like to make jokes and keep things light-hearted. So, I mean, I was chatting a lot with Casey throughout the round. We were having a lot of jokes. We were having a good time. But obviously, you can't stop the runaway train that he was on at that point. So I tried to feed a little bit actually off of the birdies that he was making, because I mean it was so great to watch to see Oku really struggle to actually even miss a shot. So yeah, I think it lifted my game, to be honest. I didn't realize it at the time, but I think looking back, that definitely was the case.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, doing a bit of research beforehand, I chatted to your coach Graham, and he was saying what he really admires about you. Well, there are a few things, but what stood out for me is one, your work ethic, and two, just how level-headed you are in your approach. Is a sort of really good work ethic something you've always had instilled in you from a young age, or when did that sort of start to manifest?
Yeah, I think that comes down to a little bit to my parents from the start.
Mm.
They've always been advocates of just letting me play sport for fun. So there's never
Yeah.
been any forcing to go to practice or saying that I have to go outside and get my reps in to make sure that I'm keeping up with everyone else. It's always just been about let's make this as fun as possible. So I played a lot of sports in school. I played at a decent level in cricket and soccer as well. And I mean, that was also just all about having some fun. So I think taking that approach towards golf, which is obviously usually seen as a very serious sport, you have to be very focused. It's helped me to just play because I want to, and to practice because I want to get better, not because I feel pressure that I need to get better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but that's epic, because that sort of, that intrinsic drive is, you're going to probably go a lot further than if the external forces sort of driving you to get to a certain point.
Yeah, I agree completely. I've been very lucky with that growing up, as I've said. So, I feel like I'm definitely in the right frame of mind to hopefully keep improving and move forward in my career as the years go on. And I'm just going to keep focusing on keeping the same motivation as I go on.
So, I mean, let's sort of delve into your background a bit. So where did you grow up, and where did you go to school? And if you can just touch a bit more on the sports you did play growing up.
Sure. So, born and bred in Port Elizabeth. I've lived here all my life. And I went to St. Dominic's Priory in Port Elizabeth. It's not the biggest school in the city, private school, and went there from preschool all the way through till matric. And I was lucky enough to have a lot of opportunities to play a lot of different sports. Golf wasn't really in the picture until I think high school. I slowly started to take it more seriously. I played cricket and soccer for more seriously throughout junior school and going into high school. Also played tennis for quite a while. Did a little bit of athletics here and there. But luckily I realized that those things weren't really for me. And when the injuries started to occur a little bit more often in the cricket, especially, I started to turn my focus more towards golf because of that. Towards the end of high school, I would say.
What were the injuries that you sustained?
Okay, so I had a few. I had a bit of nerve damage in my neck. That happened in the middle of a game once, just out of the blue. So I had to sit up for quite a while because of that. And then the most recurring one was my ligaments in my sternum that attached to my sternum detached quite a few times, and I had to go on long breaks every single time that happened. That was because I was trying to get a little bit quicker as a bowler. And I was just putting too much strain on my body. So those were all signs that it was maybe time to switch sports.
What did you generally clock speed-wise?
I wouldn't say that I would scare many batsmen. I would towards the end of high school, I was maybe getting around the 120 an hour mark. I used to mainly focus on swinging the ball a little bit more than my speed.
Yeah, bit of a Vernon Philander type scenario there.
I'd like to think so. If only I was that good.
No, he's insane. Like, jeepers, I could watch that Oak Bowl all day, every day. It's insane. But with your golf, have you found that particular injury has like sort of recurred at all since you've taken the golf a bit more seriously?
Luckily not. So I was quite lucky in school when I had those little injuries. I'll never forget him. His name was Mr. Mack, my biology teacher. He had all of these little home remedies for injuries and weird little concoctions that he'd tell me to take because he was also our cricket coach. And I took them, and touch wood, I haven't had any one of those cricket injuries, especially. None of them have recurred. So all good so far.
That's epic. So when you make your first check as a pro, you're gonna cut him in and say thank you.
I think he deserves at least that.
100%. So something you haven't touched on yet, I don't think, is that you were actually head boy in matric. Was that something I mean, we had a couple of guys. I went to Rondebosch, and we had a couple of guys in our grade who very much you could get the sense that from grade 8 they made that like their mission and their sort of focus. Was that something that you actually aspired to from like early in high school, or was it something that just sort of happened naturally?
It definitely wasn't something that I aspired to from the beginning. I would say once I got towards grade 11, as a lot of the guys would, you'd start behaving a little bit better, being a bit more polite, and just trying to see if that'll be noticed by the teachers, hopefully. But yeah, I was quite naughty in class. I wasn't exactly the most obedient and quiet student all the time. I tried to always be polite with teachers and not cause too much rubbish. And yeah, I mean, once the head boy tag, or once I was given that duty, I think then I definitely cleaned up my act a little bit more and tried to make sure that I was a good head boy for the school and not just back to my old kind of tricks.
Yeah, I suppose it's kind of like, sometimes when the teacher goes to like run an errand outside the class, they leave the naughtiest guy in charge to see if they step up to the plate.
I definitely had a few of those situations.
Yeah, but what was it like, juggling the responsibilities of that role with, the pressures of having to excel or just do well academically? Was it difficult?
I didn't find it too difficult. I was very lucky. I had one of my best friends was the head girl at the time, and I mean we helped each other through a lot of the workload that we had to get through as head students. So
cool.
yeah, and it helped that she was also probably the smartest person I've ever met and probably ever will meet. So I always got some study tips from her, and yeah, we kind of just helped each other along the way. So that definitely made things easier. I don't think it would have been as easy without her, for sure.
Yeah, it's epic to have that, that support structure around you and people to sort of sound ideas off, and yeah, it's very, very cool. But tell me about how your golf progressed during the course of high school, because in 2016 you beat Luca Philippi in a playoff for the Africa Junior Open. Firstly, was that your first taste of like real success? And secondly, what is it like sort of going head to head with one of your mates down the stretch at an event?
Yeah, so I think my golfing career was kind of it was definitely a slow start. I'd started playing a lot more events from like grade 10 onwards, and I'd seen that I could compete. I had a couple of top 3, top 5 finishes in the national junior events. So I started to realize there was a passion, especially then, when I could see that I could compete and I had that kind of competitiveness in me instilled in me from other sports. But yeah, I would definitely say that that win at the Africa Junior was definitely what made me believe in myself a little bit more and showed me that I can win. But yeah, it was a great experience playing against Luca. That was actually, he'll never admit to it, but he didn't actually know my name when we greeted each other on the tee box there. He didn't recognize me, and I had to introduce myself there. But yeah, that was great. I mean, all of us knew already at that stage that he was a classy player. I mean, he still got the nickname Ball Striker Barry for a reason. So yeah, I was a little bit intimidated going into the playoff, if I'm being honest. Especially I'd finished drop or drop par or something like that to drop back into the playoff. So I was still a little bit down. But yeah, I had a couple of good holes in a row in the playoff, and then eventually sank a nice putt, which was just the cherry on the cake.
Yeah, that's epic. But yeah, I mean, Luca, he definitely does have a tendency to forget people's names. I mean, we were actually at a mate's house a few months ago for a braai, and there was a mate of mine there whose name was Claude, and he was like, "Oh, how's it, Carl? How are you doing, bro? Like, good to see you again." And the oak was so bleak that he forgot his name. But clearly, when you've achieved all he has in the game, maybe you can forget a name or two. But also something really cool that you did in 2016 was, I believe, make your debut for the EP senior side at Interprov. You also won your first game. Well, you weren't even actually initially in the side, but then came in after someone dropped out due to personal reasons. But you won your first game 9-7, I believe. I mean, that must have been a pretty wild feeling.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think I got the call the afternoon before, and I had to drive up to Fish River early the next morning to actually make it in time for the foursome. So I think that actually helped me a little bit in that I didn't have any time to really think. I just had to kind of step up on the tee and start playing golf, which was great because it was also a place where I just had a win and I was really comfortable playing there because I think I'd already played 5-6 events there, so I knew the course really well. Yeah, I don't think there was a better place for me, to be honest, as a place to make my debut.
Yeah, that's epic. What did the dude who you played? What did he say to you after the game?
Shame. He was a really good sport about it. He was one of the seniors in the Free State side. So I think it was his 20th IPT or something at the time. Yeah, so he said he said he thought he'd seen it all, but that was definitely something to add to the list of what he'd experienced at IPTs. But yeah, shame he couldn't have been nicer about it, to be honest.
No, that's wild. It must be quite. I suppose that sort of changing of the guard must be a bit of a pull to swallow for guys like that. You know, when they've been around for so long, and then suddenly this newer comes around, and he's like, "Yeah, okay, you can walk off after 11 holes." That's wild. But something I forgot to ask you about earlier about Luca is, so you mentioned that you do a bit of English teaching on the side to earn a bit of extra cash, but I hear there's no danger of you becoming an extra Spanish teacher.
Yeah, definitely no chance of that.
Do you want to let the viewers into the story that I'm referring to in Argentina?
Yeah, sure. So when I got the call that we were going to go to Argentina, I started to try and study a little bit of Spanish. I actually started to gain a bit of confidence as well with the speaking and the understanding. So I thought, okay, I've got this thing waxed. When we go to Argentina, I'll be the communicator. This is going to be awesome. Yeah, as soon as we got to the airport in Argentina and our chauffeur, our taxi driver came up to us, he only spoke Spanish, no English. And yeah, I realized very quickly I was out of my depth and resorted to Google Translate for the rest of the trip.
And that's interesting because my experience of trying to translate Afrikaans orals is that it translates it directly. There's no sort of word order and structure that goes into it at all.
Yeah, no, exactly. He definitely laughed at us a few times with what Google Translate spat out at him, but yeah, shame. He was very patient with us and yeah, very helpful. I think yeah, he could have definitely maybe pulled a couple of pranks on us because we didn't understand and we've done something a little bit more wild. But yeah, luckily he was very nice.
Yeah, I mean, it must be so special that you guys have been very, very lucky to have a few of those overseas experiences and experience different cultures and different countries that are so vastly different. I mean, what do you ever sort of like in the moment? Do you ever sort of pinch yourself and be like, "Yo, I can't believe this is actually happening to me"?
Yeah, to be honest, every time I go on one of those trips, I have one of those moments. Especially, I think, because we're so lucky that we get to play some amazing golf courses at the events. It's not just the beautiful country that we go to; it's also really impressive venues a lot of the time. So, yeah, I think especially before the event starts, when the nerves start to kick in, and when you maybe start to get more focused on the tournament, it's nice to take a step back and just say, like, listen, I'm so lucky to be here. This is such an awesome event. Let's just go out and have fun, because like, what's the point of actually going on a trip like that if you don't learn and have a little bit of fun along the way?
No, for sure. And I mean, how have you found, going to events and having to learn courses on the fly? It must be interesting.
Yeah, it's a really cool experience because obviously, not that in South Africa we don't have a vast array of different styles of golf courses, because we definitely do. But yeah, when you go to all of these golf courses, it's definitely interesting to have to adapt, especially to new types of grass. I found that was especially a challenge in Argentina. Luca and I, even though it was his second time there, we both had long chats about how we were going to actually tackle the landscape more than the golf course design itself. And yeah, I think my coach will definitely agree with me when I say I'm not the best at adapting to new courses, especially in maybe the first 2 rounds. And then I always kind of pull it back towards the end once I've learned the course a bit better. Yeah, so that's why also I really enjoy going on these trips, because I'd like to develop that side of my game and be more adaptable to new designs. So yeah, it's just a great opportunity every time we travel to really test that side of my game, to see how well I can adapt.
Do you think it's going to be weird, like when you turn pro? Because like now, when you go on trips with your mates, it's like you try and help each other, you try and figure it out together. But then, when you turn pro, it's like, sure, you are going to have a couple of people that you can chat to, but essentially it's like every man for himself type of thing.
Yeah, I think it definitely will be a big change. But yeah, I'm very lucky. Hopefully, when I do turn pro and get my card, that I've got a lot of people I consider close friends that are already on the tour, and I think that will definitely help me if they're willing to share some of their secrets. Yeah, just to kind of feed off of them and get some ideas from them on how they adapted in their first year and how they learned to kind of play on tour and how to change their game to be able to compete on tour. So yeah, I think I'm very lucky to have some of those friends that I feel like I could confide in, especially before my first couple of events, just to really feel a little bit more at ease with the new experience.
Yeah, I presume one of your mates must be Luke Jerling, because that's an absolute legend. So I'm sure you guys must be mates.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, we are quite close, and we've got plans for when I eventually get out on tour to definitely travel together and try, share the experience together, make it a bit easier for each other, to always have each other there.
Yeah. And I mean, it must be so cool to sort of see how that Oak's career has, continued to just go from strength to strength.
Yeah, 100%. I've been there through, or I was present through a lot of his practice and the things that he's been going through. We've had very open chats with our coach, and my coach also then tries to teach me lessons based off of Luke's experiences. So yeah, I've definitely learned a lot about the tour already just through him. And yeah, it's been great, especially just to see how he's been able to grow as a player. Especially through some of the issues he maybe had coming out of college and not being too happy with his game. To see how he's just developed and grown in confidence, it's awesome. He deserves every result he gets.
Yeah, no, it's wild. And you caddied for him at Humewood on the tour, I think, this past season. What was that experience like, and what are your biggest takeaways from that?
It was a great experience. It was awesome to see how the tour pros operate maybe slightly differently to the Amis. And it was also nice that I got to watch quite a lot of good golf as well, because he had quite a solid week, and he played with some other pros that also had a couple of really good rounds. My main takeaways would definitely be that the tour is definitely a bit more serious than amateur golf. There's not as much banter in the group, and maybe not as much joking around, which is obviously to be expected. Just the professional attitude that a lot of the guys have. I like to consider myself as having quite a professional demeanor on the course, or that's what I'm striving towards. These guys really taught me a lesson in how it's supposed to be done. Especially Luke. I mean, he just stays so calm, and he's so focused on the job at hand. You never really have to give him any advice, or he never really asks for any advice, because he's just so headstrong. He knows exactly what he wants to do. And I think that's something that I definitely would need to work on going into the pro ranks, just to become a little bit more headstrong and believe in my own thoughts and ideas a little bit more on the course, instead of referring to a caddy all the time.
Yeah. I mean, the way Graham described it yesterday, it doesn't sound like you are a social practicer. Like, if you see your mates on the range, it's like, cool, you'll chat to them after you finish working on whatever you need to work on. rather than chatting sort of during the actual session.
Yeah. I like to get my drills done. I like to get my work done before I feel like I can socialize a little bit. I feel like that's almost like a little bit of a reward after I've done my practice. Guys still come up to me and want to have chats on the range, and I'm not going to just like send them away or something like that. So I just make sure that I'm still doing my drills and performing my practice as well as I can while having little chats between shots if they stick around. But yeah, eventually people see that I'm focusing on hitting balls, and then they eventually just migrate away.
Yeah, and I mean, describe Graham as a coach. Like, what are his sort of like core philosophies that he's trying to impart on you, and how have they sort of helped you?
Yeah, I mean, Graham's been my only coach, so I mean, I've pretty much learned everything I know about golf through him, especially about competitive golf. And he's been awesome. There's no one else that I'd rather have teaching me the game. I think some of the main things that he's definitely taught me is course management and more the psychology of the game. I mean, he's a big advocate for doing your drills and making sure that your swing is where you want it to be and you're comfortable in your swing. But outside of that, he really wants you to know how to play the game. So what to do in certain situations, how to behave, especially how to behave. He demands a more of a light-hearted, upbeat attitude, no negativity allowed. And yeah, I've really enjoyed that that approach. It's really helped me, I feel. But yeah, I would definitely say the main thing that I've taken out of working with Graham is definitely I've learned how to play the game a lot better than before. I think that my swing maybe hasn't changed as much as some other people with their coaches. But yeah, I think I've improved tenfold with how I play.
Yeah, and I think also my biggest takeaway from my chat with Luke a few weeks ago is it certainly sounds like Graham really, really cares about his students as people rather than just as players, which I think makes such a difference.
Yeah, that's completely true. We don't just speak about my swing or my golf game when we're having lessons or when we're having our chats. He's always interested to see what's going on in your life. If everything's going well, just to make sure that he's checking in and checking all of his bases. He likes to help in any way that he can, which is great. So he's not shy to give some advice in general matters in your life. And that advice has also really helped me in a couple of situations. So I love that he has that part about him.
Yeah, that's epic. And I'm sure, when you do eventually turn pro, he'll be a great sort of sounding board and someone you can chat to about like how you cope with the pressures of like having to earn a check and things like that, which makes the world of difference when your coach has actually been there.
Yeah, exactly. He, like you said, with him having been through a lot of the experiences that I might go through in my career, he's definitely going to be someone that I'm going to rely on for a little bit of advice, and especially telling me what not to do in certain situations. He's very good at especially at those situations, telling you not to do whatever stupid thing you're thinking of doing. He's good at talking you out of the bad decisions, which is, I think, just as important as helping you through making big positive decisions. So, between him and Luke, I think I've definitely got a good base of support for when I go out on tour.
Yeah, and by the sounds of things, Graham's son Tyler may be on the bag, which is going to be interesting because that makes the biggest laugh. I mean, he's such a legend as well. I love Tyler. We've got a great relationship, especially on the course. The nice thing about him is, as you know, he's a jokester and he's always good for a laugh outside or off the golf course. But on the golf course, what I admire about him most is that he knows when to be serious and he knows when to make his jokes. So he knows that I like to keep things lighthearted. So we're always joking between shots, but when it's time for us to discuss the next play or the next shot, he's back to business, which I love. Yeah, that's epic. When did you guys first start? When did you first give him a go and see how well you guys work together?
So yeah, I think we tested it out a few times just in local events first, and then at the EP Border Stroke Play, I think was still one of our earlier tournaments, where I was lucky enough to win, and I think that kind of made it clear for me that we were a good team.
Yeah, and you had quite an eventful week at the SA Open earlier this year. Do you want to tell us about that and how unnerving that start to the week may have been? Because it sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, it wasn't ideal by any means. So yeah, I started off the first two holes with two really nice par saves. Really, I was out of position on both of the holes, and I just went up on the second hole to a rules official just to make sure that my greens map book was up to scratch or up to standard. So I just handed it to him just to check, because obviously I didn't want to play a whole round with an incorrect book and then get DQ'd for that. So I handed it to him. He said it looked okay, but he was just going to check with the main European Tour rules official. And yeah, he drove up to us after we completed the second hole. And he said, like, listen, I don't know if you've used it on both of these first two holes, but if you've used it on the first, it's going to be a 2-stroke penalty because the grid lines on my green map book were too large. So the picture was perfect size, and I printed it the right size, but the grid was too big.
Couldn't you have claimed bad eyesight?
I wish I had, but yeah, he wasn't in the mood to be argued with, and yeah, to be honest, I was really shocked. So yeah, I didn't really know what to do with myself other than just to walk to the third tee and try to put it behind myself, and then think about it after the round and kind of process it a little bit later. So yeah, that's what I did. And he was really good about the thing. The rules official actually drove up to me after we finished the round and sat me down to actually explain why it was a rules infraction. So yeah, he took his time just to help me out, which was great.
Is it easier to accept, when they sort of are apologetic and when they sort of explain exactly what's going on?
Yeah, I think so. I think the fact that he showed that he was genuinely sorry that he actually had to give that ruling, and he also showed me it on paper in their rules book. So it also made it very clear that there was no way I could argue. And so yeah, it made it very easy to get over, because it was it became very clear that it was a problem, and he handled it really well.
Yeah, and what was Tyler saying to you when all of this was going on?
I think that was the first time that Tyler's been silent for longer than a hole or two at a time. So yeah, that was quite weird. But yeah, Shane, he was really good at that point. He just said, let's keep our head down. Let's just get through this round, make sure that we don't let any of that get to us, and then we'll just really handle and deal with it after the round when there's no shots to be played.
Yeah, no, that's probably the sensible way of going about it. But growing up in PE, certainly I'd imagine has stood you in pretty good stead when playing in the wind, and you had quite a bit of success in the UK last year. How much did you apply what you had learned growing up to those conditions in the UK?
Yeah, I think it definitely helps coming from a city like PE. I mean, there's not many days that go by where there's not a pretty strong breeze. So yeah, I think just being comfortable in those kind of situations, especially obviously when you introduce pressure, you don't want to be worrying about too many other things, like not knowing how to play a wind shot, which luckily I've had lots of practice with. So yeah, and I mean, going into the UK, the conditions I knew that they would be very firm and fast. So I did a lot of my practice at Humewood and practicing my bump and runs with 8-irons and 7-irons instead of the usual kind of flop shot and floated chip shot practice. So I think that definitely helped, because my short game was definitely a positive when I was in the UK. Yeah, I think in the end, like in the Links Trophy, that was just I played in a bit of rain, and that was one thing that I wasn't actually prepared for. So I think that was a good learning experience as well for me. I knew I was prepared for wind, but I wasn't prepared for everything.
Yeah. Do you find like obviously when you play links courses, the variety of shots that you can potentially play is a much wider sort of spectrum than in South Africa. Can it be like quite sort of overwhelming? Like, do you play a bump and run? Do you sort of fly it back to the flag, all that kind of stuff? Do you find it quite? Are you like quite clear in your decision making, or is it like quite tricky sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the beauty of a lot of those courses is that they try to make those decisions difficult for you because they just give you so many options, which is part of what makes it fun and also part of what makes it so difficult to decide on a shot. But what I've changed in my game, I would say, over the last year or so is that I've really started to just pick the most simple shot that I can. So I really don't like to get fancy if I don't need to. I always try to give myself a lot of room for error if I can. So yeah. I think that definitely helped me over there because I knew I would have to play some interesting kind of punchy, runny shots. I'd done my practice on them, so I was a lot more comfortable than I usually would have been playing them. So I think I took a lot of variables out with how I practiced and prepared before the UK. So I honestly didn't find it too difficult to pick shots in the UK, besides maybe a little bit at the Brabazon because of the course design. It was just some holes just didn't suit my eye, but I eventually came to terms with that as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure I don't know if you'll necessarily be able to go back this year, but when you do go back in future, you'll have it not waxed, but you'll be in very, very good shape. But
yeah, I'd like to think so. Yeah.
Yeah. But so it's taken me 35 minutes to actually get into this, but you're also part of the Ernie Els Fancourt Foundation. What was that when you got that initial letter or call or whatever it was? That must have been one of the most surreal moments of your golf career, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. I'm so grateful for that opportunity. I mean, it's such a great foundation and such a great thing to be a part of. So, when I got the call, it was just before Eastern Province stroke play, I think at the end of 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I was just getting ready to play, and I was just preparing on the putting green, and then Tannie Linda, as we call her, she came up to me and started speaking to me about the whole inclusion in the foundation. And then, a week or two later, Hannes flew down and gave me all the papers to sign. I was part of the foundation. So, it happened really quickly. It's been a great experience ever since I became part of the foundation.
And how does it work? Because in terms of for what period of time are you sort of eligible? Is it literally up until the point that you turn pro, or what is that timeline like? Yeah,
so they're great they want to give you the best opportunity that they can to play amateur golf at a high level. So they will support you until you turn pro, or until you decide maybe that you don't want to play golf, or whatever the case may be. So they provide support until you decide that you don't need the support anymore. So it's pretty amazing.
Okay. And 2018, had you finished, because you studied, if I'm correct, eh?
Yes.
So had you finished your undergrad then, or what's the timeline on that?
Yeah, so I decided at the beginning of this year to take a break. I only have a couple of subjects to finish to complete my undergrad, so I'm not too worried about that, because if I need to go back and finish the subjects, I mean, it won't take me too long. So, I've got 3 years out of the 4 done. So I was finishing second year at the time.
Okay, what are you studying?
Human movement science.
Oh, that's interesting. I've literally never heard anyone who's studying that. What drew you to that after school?
So I've always had like I've always been a bit of a fitness nut. So when I saw that human movement science is about learning about the human body and how it reacts to exercise and certain stresses, and then obviously everything that goes with the degree, it was just very easy for me to decide to do that. It suited what I wanted to learn about. Yeah, and I learned a lot of valuable lessons through the degree. I mean, I learned how to be a personal trainer, so I've been able to train some clients as well, which has been a good experience. And yeah, I've learned also how to deal with my own body when I'm training, because obviously golf can put your body through quite a bit of stress. So yeah, I found it very helpful now that I kind of know how to listen to my body a little bit better because of knowing the theory behind it.
Yeah, so always before interviews, I try and dig up a bit of dirt on whoever I'm interviewing, and I'd actually message Tyler and Sean and ask them for a few stories, and neither of them could really come up with anything sort of remotely funny or incriminating or anything. But the one thing Sean did say was, "You're quite a prolific eater." Is that something you've always had about you, or is it something you've sort of grown into?
Yeah, I've never been shy of eating. I won't lie. It's always been something that I don't really get full very often, which is a bit of a blessing and a curse. So yeah, when there's a buffet at a tournament or something, yeah, my eyes kind of light up a little bit and I get quite excited. So yeah, I think also with being quite active and I enjoy just moving around in general. If I'm not playing golf, I want to be in the gym or I want to be going for a jog or something like that. I always use the excuse that I've burnt off enough calories in the day that I've earned my food, or that's what I tell myself at least. So yeah, I've been keeping up that excuse for quite a long time now.
No, that's epic. What are your aspirations going forward? I'm sure that turning pro is something that's on your mind, but have you put a timeline on any of that, or are you just taking it sort of one event at a time type of thing?
Yeah, so I definitely would like to turn pro as soon as I can, but I feel as soon as I can is only when I am playing well and I feel like I'm ready to take the next step. So yeah, I mean, if I'm still playing well towards the end of the year, going into the beginning of next year, then I will probably go to tour school. But if I find that I'm maybe not where I want to be, then I'm definitely going to take my time. I don't want to be that kind of player that gets out on tour and struggles for a couple of years before he figures out how to play and how to win. I really don't enjoy playing golf like that. I play to be in pressure situations and to test myself. So yeah, I only want to go when I know that I feel like I can challenge a bit for a couple of wins.
Yeah, I mean, when you say pressure situations, you mean pressure trying to win a title rather than trying to make a cut?
100%. Yeah. There's good pressure and bad pressure, and I definitely prefer the pressure of being in a final group over needing to make a par on the last to make a cut.
And I'm sure sort of, by the time you do get out on tour, I'm sure by then, I mean, Garrick Higgo would have had a couple of years out there. Jaden would have also finished his first one, and Luca as well. And again, I mean, those are such valuable resources and guys that you can play practice rounds with and chat to about like how to approach different courses and things like that, which is quite cool.
Yeah, agreed. And yeah, there's not many better resources to have than Garrick, Luca, and Jaden. I don't think I've seen. I think they've got more decorated trophy cabinets than a lot of PGA Tour pros. So, yeah, I think I'll definitely be picking their brains when I get out on tour. And it's also, it's going to be nice to have some people I consider good friends out there that I can just chat to about anything, and I don't have to feel like it's as much of a lonely road. Obviously, also with Luke around. Yeah,
and I mean, the one thing that stuck with me from a conversation I had with Garrick a few weeks ago was that when he played his first event in, I'm probably going to get the country wrong, I want to say Zambia, but he said he actually realized, like, as much as you say it is a lot more serious in the professional game, but he just sort of saw a couple of his mates and then immediately felt that sort of sense of calm. And it's like, it's pressure, but it's also, there's an element of like relaxation to it, and it's relatively chilled as pro golf can be, I guess.
For sure.
which of his? So I mean, Garrick won twice. Did you watch much of the Tour Championship at Serengeti?
I did, yeah.
I mean, it's insane how well he handled those pressure moments. It's bizarre.
Yeah, he's always been a clutch guy. I mean, I don't think any of the guys who've played amateur golf with him would have doubted him in that situation. He just he's proven time and time again when he gets in contention, he's generally tough to beat. So yeah, I mean, it was awesome, especially when I saw that he was in contention. I had a feeling that he was definitely at least going to press for the title. And yeah, when he got the job done, I mean, I can't say I was surprised, to be honest.
Yeah, and he was so chilled about it. Like when the last putt dropped on 18, he was like very took his cap off, shook the dude's hand, and shook. I think he was playing with Hayden Porteous, and he was like so chilled. It was very weird to watch.
Yeah, I think that sums him up pretty perfectly. He doesn't let much get to him, and I think that's what a lot of guys admire about him and want to learn from him. He's very comfortable in his own skin, and yeah, he plays with a lot of confidence because he trusts himself. So yeah, it's great to see.
Yeah. Are you sort of similar in that regard? Like, do you not really get like too pumped up or too down on yourself during a round? What's your sort of mental approach to pressure situations like that?
Yeah, my approach is definitely to try to keep a bit of a level head, just focus on whatever job I have to do, focus on what I can control, especially. So, I mean, if the guy I'm playing against who I'm tied with makes a birdie, I'm not going to get all down on myself. I'm just going to have to try and hit some good shots coming up to put some pressure on him. So, yeah, especially when things are going negatively, I just try to look for some positives, keep my mood up and positive, because I know that I only really play my best golf when I'm in happy, upbeat frame of mind. So knowing that, I feel like it's almost a little bit stupid of me to get down on myself, because then I just open the door for more negativity.
Well, it's cool that you recognize that, especially so early on. That so you know to sort of be wary of it. But you've been super, super gracious with your time. So I'm going to sort of fire a couple of quick fire questions at you, and then we can let you get on with your day. But actually, I wanted to ask you about this earlier on. What was it like having a quarantine birthday? It must have been quite strange.
Yeah, a very strange experience, I must say. But yeah, I've got a great girlfriend, and she surprised me early on in the morning with some presents, and yeah, she made sure, along with my family, that I had the best birthday I possibly could have. So yeah, I don't think it could have gone much better considering the circumstances.
That's epic, dude. Cool, but here we go. It's sort of a segment I'm trying to start called person behind the player. So Xbox or PlayStation?
PlayStation all day.
All day. Since did you used to have like a PS1 and then 2 and 3 and 4, or what's that?
Exactly, yeah.
Epic.
Yeah, so I feel like a bit of a vet.
And your post-round drink of choice? I feel like I should probably ask you post-round meal of choice, because it sounds like you built up quite a reputation. But yeah, what's your go-to drink after a round?
Cola tonic and lemonade, pretty much after every round.
Epic. And do you have any superstitions on the course?
None whatsoever. I don't like to waste too much time worrying about other stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a bit more of Graham's influence coming through there.
Yeah.
And finally, you have one course to play every day for the rest of your life. Which is it going to be and why?
Fancourt Montague. Just because. Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. So I've been really lucky to we've had a holiday house there, so we go there a couple of times a year.
Very cool.
And yeah, once I start playing on Fancourt's courses, I can't really stop. So I end up playing about maybe 8 rounds in a week, maybe 9 rounds sometimes. Yeah, I just can't get enough. So I think that I would be very comfortable playing any one of the Fancourt courses for the rest of my life, for sure.
Yeah, and the practice facilities as well are insane. Like, you can spend all day there, and not
100%.
get bored. But how can guys follow you on social media? How can they sort of follow your career and your trajectory going forward?
Yeah, so on Instagram, I'm just at Carl de Beer. I like to post a little bit about every tournament that I play in. So I like to keep things about golf, especially when I'm in a tournament or something like that. So you'll see lots of stories of golf course pictures and videos and swing videos and things like that. So yeah, and then on Facebook, I'm slowly starting to try and make that more of my golfing platform a little bit more.
Okay.
So more of a thing to kind of grow my brand in a way. Yeah, just to show people what I do on a daily basis, how I practice, how tournaments are going, and just kind of insight into my daily life, kind of, if people are interested, hopefully.
No, that's awesome, dude. I'm sure in the years to come, you're going to build up quite the following. But thank you so much for the time. I really, really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been awesome.
Yeah, thanks, dude. And guys, if you are super desperate for golf content of any quality, and I can't necessarily guarantee the best quality content, but follow Free Drop at Free Drop Blog on Facebook and at Free Drop _podcast on Instagram. But yeah, I mean, having legends like Kyle on the show makes it such fun to do. So, Kyle, just finally before you go, who would you like to see on the show? Who do you think would be a cool interview to try and get?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I would have to maybe say Dylan Naidu is not a bad guy to have. He's a very interesting guy to get to chat to, especially with his knowledge about the game and the golf swing. That's very interesting. Yeah,
it sounds like he spends a lot of time analyzing guys' swings during quarantine. So I would definitely love to have a chat to him at some point. Cool, man. But thank you so much for your time. It was so much fun to get to know you a bit better.
Awesome.
And thanks again. Sweet, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me again. Cheers.
Sweet, dude. Cheers.
Bye.